Hello and welcome to this Paint With Me video where I'll be painting with gouache. So the first thing that I do is that I get my multimedia paper and then I tape it down to this old book that I have. This keeps the page nice and flat while I'm painting and prevents it from wrinkling when I use water. After the paper is taped down, I can get to sketching. I could have done this step first, but then there's a risk of losing details while I tape down the page, so I prefer to do it the other way around. When I started sketching, I didn't really have any plans about what I wanted to draw. I just wanted to make a portrait, and then I felt like a hand would be a nice addition to that portrait. So this whole sketching process is a lot of trial and error and me trying to figure out what direction I want to take with this painting. But after drawing the hand, I felt like a more mysterious approach would fit the most, or maybe something spooky. So I tried to keep that vibe going without it being too obvious, so it's supposed to be like a little bit subtle, a little subtle, mysterious vibe. To keep up with the mysterious vibe, I decided to draw a little dagger or a knife that is against the throat. There's not really a big backstory behind it or anything. I think people can read into it how they want. I had a really hard time deciding on how the eyes were supposed to look, and I drew them a lot. I drew them many times over, and you can see them change between every single clip because I drew them I think about 5-6 times before just doing them off camera and calling it a day. So these are the eyes that I chose in the end. Then I also erased the ear because it was kind of modern and had modern types of piercings, and I suddenly really wanted to make something more medieval to fit with the dagger and make it more dramatic. And also I usually don't draw anything from the Middle Ages, so I thought it would be a nice change. And then the sketch is done and I can start painting. So my paint palette is this very old Pokemon pencil case. Then I add some blue in there, which I'm going to be using as the base color or the underlayer. I usually use magenta for this because it's a really strong and nice color, and I like everything to have a little bit of a pink undertone. But I really wanted to change it up for this one, and also the sketch just sort of felt blue, if that makes sense. I really like using an underlayer because that makes the painting look a lot more finished even if you miss some spots. Because it's a lot less noticeable when the spots that you missed are blue or pink than when they are white. It looks a lot more intentional. So here I start painting the skin, and I really just start to get in there. I had no plans or anything, I just put it on and hope for the best. I think my plans were to put the midtones down first, but then I kind of went off the rails and I just put it everywhere, which is not correct. Like here I suddenly start putting the same color on the darkest parts of the face, like underneath the eyebrows and such, which doesn't make any sense at all. But in the end I think it actually turned out fine, so you just gotta trust the process on this one. Here I put down a color and realized that that was very wrong, and this is one of the lighter parts of the face, so I decided to go in with the lighter parts. So like the forehead, and I also recolored the cheeks and a lot of the other places of the face that I had already painted. Gouache dries a lot darker than it looks when it's wet, which makes the process look really messy and sometimes like I'm putting down the wrong colors. This can also be really confusing to me when I'm painting, so I always think that I'm putting in the wrong colors, and it's really messy and kind of frustrating at times. So I kind of have to focus more on the color palette where I'm mixing the colors rather than the painting. Here I'm adding in some darker shadows, and I tried to go a lot darker than the skin just so that I am sure that it is actually gonna turn out darker. So I put that underneath the eyebrows and around the face, under the nose, and a little bit under the eyes, and then I use the same color for the hand. Here I start with a lighter color for the finger, and this is a great example of how it dries a lot darker because this is the same color as the face, or like the cheeks in the face. So it starts out looking way too bright, and then it slows down and gets darker and darker almost every second in this video until it looks correct. Since I had already reactivated the lighter color, I decided to just go ahead and put that in the face as well. So I like to have lighter colors around the eyes and around the nose. So I put that down first before I go and lighten up the eyes. I felt like the nose wasn't defined enough, so I also put some lighter colors around there, but it ended up looking really wonky and weird, so I end up fixing that later. Yeah, here I am fixing it because it was just not looking right, but I kept a little bit of it on one of the nostrils. And here I come back to finish up the hand. I also forgot to paint the thumb, but I come back to that later. Here I'm putting down a little bit of a blush color, which does not look like a blush color at all when it's wet, but it is gonna look better. Gotta trust the process. Here I go in with some more dark tones, more shadows around the forehead and some other places as well. And yeah, I go a lot back and forth with light and shadows in this video, as you can see, because I'm always finding new places that need more shadow and need more light. At this point of the process, I am mostly done with the bigger stuff of the face, and now I can focus on some smaller details like the lips and also some highlights. Here I'm just doing some final fixes of the face, like fixing a little bit of the blush and also brightening up that space between her eyebrows, which had become a little bit too dark. So I just fixed that up, and then I start on her little headdress. I decided on white because I thought it would fit the vibe the most, and I also think that these sort of hats were white back in the days, but I'm not really sure because I couldn't find any photo references. I decided to give her brown hair. There's not really any reason for it, I just thought it would look good with the skin tone, and also since she has a white hat, I thought that would look better than blonde, for example. It is also easier to paint shadows on brown hair than it is to black, so I felt like it was the best choice here. I started painting the neck, which was a really easy process, just the same colors that I used before for the face, and I just reactivated these colors, put them down. This is also where I realized that the neck was extremely thick, and that's also something that I fixed later in the process. After the neck, it's time for the knife, which I actually kind of regret painting in because I don't think I really got it right. It doesn't really look that much like a dagger. It just looks like this weird thing that is close to her neck. I don't really like it. I regret that. I also didn't really put much effort into trying to make it look like metal. I just put some grays in there and then I added a little bit of highlight and didn't really put any more shadows to make it look more real. Now it is time for the best part of the process where it all comes together, and it is the line art. I feel like everything looks just incredibly wonky without the line art, but it really does come together and looks so much better after I'm done. So here I put in the very thin eyebrows because that was the trend at the time, to have almost no eyebrows, and then I put line art around her head just to give it more definition. Then I realized that I needed even darker shadows some places, so I put a darker shadow under the nose and also under the head, just because it wasn't really looking right. I needed even deeper shadows. I also ended up putting some more shadows under the eyebrows, which at first was way too dark, and then I fixed it up with some lighter colors. And then it's back to the sweet, sweet line art. Here I'm working on the hand, and it looks just so much better after the line art. It really brings it together and makes it look like a finished piece. Now it's time for the eyes, which is, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying part of this line art process. It just makes it look so much better and so much more crisp, and oh, I love it. When I'm almost done with the line art, I decide to go over to the highlights, which is also one of my favorite parts of the process. I think it's very satisfying and looks so good. I add the nose highlight on the tip of the nose, a little bit on the nose bridge, and then also around the nose because I did not put line art over there and it needs a little bit more definition. Then I go with some more highlights underneath the eyebrows because it felt like it was getting a little bit too dark over there and it was really hard to put the light there when there were no eyebrows. So it's really nice to put them down first before doing the highlights over there. Then I had some extra highlights on the other side of the nose, which I am really happy that I did. I wasn't really sure about it because I usually don't do that, but it really makes it look a lot more like a nose. Here I add in some extra hair strands here and there just to make the hair look a little bit more real. And then I also had one of these locks on her forehead in the sketch that I also added in. Here I'm slowly starting on the eyes. I first just paint over them to take away the sketch and also to sort of form them and make them into even balls. And then here you can see me zooming in and I start shading the eyes. This is also one of my favorite parts of the process because it adds a lot more life into the drawing and she looks a lot more real. After the eyes are finished, I continue on the line art because I realized that I had not done that for the lips, and I also add a little highlight underneath the lip to make them pop a little bit. Then I add a little bit of highlights underneath the chin. I don't know why I did that, I just wanted to try it out. And then I work on the eyelashes. The background was really patchy because it was just the underlayer, so I decided to make it a little bit more even by painting over it with a lot more paint and not as much water on my brush, just so the background would be a little bit cleaner and make it look a bit more finished. And after that's done, it's time to write my name in the corner of the painting. And then the painting is pretty much done. And here I'm taking off the tape to reveal some very clean edges. Oh, gorgeous. And here's the final painting. I'm actually really happy with it. I think it turned out really good. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.